I'm going to indulge. I'm going to allow myself a moment of indulgence here, because I obviously work in a profession where many of the positions we pursue and explain together are unpopular, even as they remain popular in what you might describe as the real world, and should have been more popular and would have been more popular were it not for the fact that so much of the media is dominated by people who are wrong or corrupt. More on the Prince Harry trial against the Daily Mail a little later today. Just a quick word on that, actually. They finished earlier than expected yesterday, which was probably a tactic designed or undertaken in the hope of unnerving Prince Harry. He was expecting to give evidence tomorrow, and the Mail brought in their opening comments a little earlier, having submitted thousands of pages. Originally, the opening comments that they gave to the court came in rather earlier than expected, which probably was designed, perfectly reasonable behaviour, clever clogs, legalism, probably designed to put Prince Harry on the back foot, to take him by surprise, because he was planning to spend most of today with his lawyers. But I mean, my understanding of the situation is that is a fairly ridiculous attempt at unnerving somebody who's been preparing for this moment for years, not just for a few hours. In many ways, he's been preparing for this moment for all of his adult life. 2 down, 1 to go from Prince Harry's point of view. Beat the Mirror, the Murdoch outfit settled, much against the wishes of him and his fellow plaintiffs, because they really, really wanted everything examined in a court. But the Daily Mail are now in a position where everything is going to be examined in a court. But again, because we live in a country where almost all of the people paid to provide you with so-called journalism will be rooting for the so-called journalists in this case, some of whom were named in court yesterday. But if you are interested in an overview, then the reason why everything finished a little bit earlier than expected yesterday is pretty much certainly because they were hoping to put Prince Harry on the back foot and see him stepping into the witness box unprepared and unready, which I think would probably be a fairly massive miscalculation. But as media miscalculations go, that is nothing compared to what the massed ranks of the British commentariat has done in recent years with regard to Donald Trump. I'm going to run through a few. I will almost certainly miss some, and I'm going to do it in no particular order. A lot of it comes from the Daily Telegraph, which this morning carries 2 articles describing Donald Trump finally, accurately. In their defence, the columnists who've been given an entire page to share are relatively sane by the standards of this organ, the home of the unhinged headline. But Trump crosses all lines. I want you to hold these in your mind. Trump crosses all lines. It's time to halt the danger by cutting off his global credit card, which is, of course, what Victoria in Barbados was telling us yesterday, and act now to counter the problem of King Donald. That's where we are now. Where were we last year, or even perhaps in the first term? Trump will not destroy the rules-based order, the rules-based world order, wrote somebody called Janet Daly, who gets paid for her insights. It may not look like it, but Trump is saving Europe from itself, wrote somebody called Jake Wallace-Simons, who gets paid for his insights. Donald Trump is saving Europe from itself, wrote Niall Gardiner, who gets paid for his insights. Trump backs Putin's land grab in Ukraine. That's just true, isn't it? I don't know how that one got through the net. Trump has just triumphed over the EU, wrote Matthew Lynn. Europe, is a real doozy, is lurching towards tyranny. Pundits claim Donald Trump is crushing democracy while ignoring the real threat to freedom emerging across the Atlantic, wrote Douglas Carswell. Still getting paid for his insights. What a country we've become. What a country we have allowed ourselves to be turned into. Trump, wait for it, has been proven right about pretty much everything. That's by someone called Liz Truss, who I don't know if she is still paid for her insights. I imagine her sitting on a street corner offering them for free to anybody passing, or perhaps in return for a half-smoked cigarette. But she was at that lunch with Nigel Farage the other day, the one that was hosted by the climate deniers and the people who argue that even smoking, secondary smoking, passive smoking isn't bad for you. Here's a good one. Sherelle Jacobs, who gets paid for her insights, wrote, "Trump has smashed the old world order. It won't be missed." We haven't finished yet, by the way. Am I alone, asked someone called Tim Stanley, who is paid for his insights, in admiring what Trump is doing? And to be fair to the fella, at the time he asked that question, the answer would probably have been no. Now, I'd probably just Tricky Dicky Little John, filing from his Floridan beach about how awful everything is in Britain, who would be agreeing with you that we should admire what Trump is doing. Trump's Liberation Day gives us the chance to now realise the dream of Brexit, wrote Nigel Farage, currently trying to explain to the Standards Commissioner how he managed to trouser £380,000 from outside interests while simultaneously being the MP for Clacton and failing to do the requisite paperwork. It's almost as if all the old ghouls and corpses of idiocy are emerging from the crypt of wrongness this morning. David Frost. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you David Frost. There's method to Trump's tariff madness, wrote another man that Boris Johnson put in the House of Lords. Kamal Ahmed, oh man, he used to be all right. Starmer should thank his lucky stars for Donald Trump. The 47th president is showing the PM how leadership works. I guess if you're signing up to write for the Telegraph, eventually you have to leave something at the door. Do we include Bernie Ecclestone on this list? The former Formula One. It's a little tongue twister for you there, Keith. Donald Trump is the best thing that could happen to the world. Okay, I mean, he was very good with cars. Trump can save Brexit if we let him. Here's some words to strike terror into the heart of anybody with a functioning cerebral cortex. In the first of a new series on how to make Brexit a success, Douglas Carswell says... Yeah, I think we can leave that there. Go on, have a guess who this one was. Trump's triumph offers a new blueprint for Britain. I spoil you with these. That's a new name to add to the list. Suella Braverman. I don't know if you remember her. She would have been paid for that, and she's still paid to sit and represent British interests in the House of Commons. If Trump succeeds in reinventing government, expect his plans to be the global blueprint, wrote somebody called Simon Case, who used to work for the British government. So, you know, the Kool-Aid reaches parts that other Kool-Aids have failed to reach. Here's one of my favourites, because this was something that Daniel Hannan accidentally admitted yesterday, in that eventually all they ever got out of it was enjoying the discomfort of people who were going to be proved right. Here is the Sherelle Jacobs person who is presumably still paid for her insights. Smug liberals still don't get it. Trump is on the side of the people. Oh, come on, Sherelle. Why couldn't you just have said woke and just make everything a little bit easier? Poppy Coburn, me neither. It's time to become the 51st state of the US. The Daily Telegraph pay people to write this bilge. America is about to expose how authoritarian Britain really is. Somebody called Annabelle Denham, who is not only still paid for her insights, she's been paid for them today in the Daily Telegraph, in the same pages. Here's one of their op-eds. This is the editorial that goes unbylined. Britain must look to America, not to failing Europe. I'm not done yet. What time is it? 11:13. This goes back to the immediate aftermath of the election, shortly after the election. Someone called Sam Ashworth-Hayes, who presumably still gets paid for his insights, wrote, Britain must follow Trump and embrace mass deportations, unwittingly making a case for at least one deportation, his own. Roger Kimball, America is so back. That's a hideous headline on every... Nobody over the age of 17 should be using language like, it's so back, man. America is so back, dude. America is so back. Oh, Lord. And on we go. Trump trade deal would be a Brexit triumph. Another one that nobody had the audacity to put their name on, so they stuck it on the op-ed pages. And there's a nasty bug, and it's spreading. Here it is, and it's spreading fast. Trump derangement syndrome. There it is. People who looked at what Donald Trump was, what he did, and what he was clearly destined to become, and decided that the real problem, was the people who were correctly describing it. And that is from Isabel Oakeshott, who I think has now moved to a country that has Sharia law, but is nonetheless still presumably paid for her insights. Is she going out with Richard Tice? I don't know who I'd be libeling, actually. If I incorrectly described those two as having been in a relationship, which one would have the stronger case for libel in a court? There's a question for the ages. Hopefully we'll never have to find out. I haven't finished yet, although I may be losing control of my mouse. Back to Tim Stanley. Trump is already smashing the leftist deep state. And this is the British media. I know it's a bit of a pet hate of mine, and you probably ignore most of it, but this is why your mum thinks the things she thinks. This is why your daft Uncle Keith on Facebook holds the opinions he holds. They go further now, of course, on social media, but these are the seeds of destruction. British voters actually back Trump's policies. Here's the proof. And Abe Roger Kimball's back again. You remember him? America is so back. Donald Trump is a great man of history, says Roger, who looks like a thumb with painted on spectacles. Trump is the last chance to save the decaying West from terminal decline. Wait for it. It's the one and only. It's your favourite of mine. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring you the godfather of the unhinged headline. It's Alistair Heath. Still the editor of the Sunday Telegraph, still getting paid for his insights and opinions. Trump is the last chance to save the decaying West from terminal decline. Okay. That's so good we could almost do it twice. Then you get a new brand of journalism, Whisper It. So if you see Whisper It in a headline, it means this is absolutely bonkers, but my kids need shoes, and this is the bills that they want me to write. So you write Whisper It, but it's just possible that sanity is returning to US diplomacy. You got some other sort of political endorsements. Nigel Farage goes full Donald Trump, meeting him backstage at rally before America votes. Don't know who to feel sorriest for. Suella Braverman, congratulations, President-elect Trump, on your election victory. America is our closest ally. Your success is our success. At this time of global insecurity, you can... and then, of course, needless to say, Liz Truss. Congratulations, Donald Trump. Great news for the USA and the West. Let the fight back begin. This, it has to be mentioned, is somebody who is dedicated to opposing UK interests. And it was clear then, although it's even clearer now. Somebody called Boris Johnson? I mean, he must be important because they've stuck his comments in a headline. Huge congratulations to Donald Trump on his amazing victory. I have no doubt he will now set about making America strong at home and abroad. There's more. In fact, speaking of Boris Johnson, who the producer tells me used to be Prime Minister, he went to the inauguration a year ago. And at the inauguration, I think this is really important, he didn't touch the Bible, right? The swearing in, his arm was in the air. This is quite... I know you're looking at me as if, what's James going on about now? He didn't touch the Bible, but Boris Johnson filed copy for the Daily Mail, which was supposed to be an eyewitness account. But Boris Johnson being Boris Johnson, he almost certainly filed it before it had actually happened. So the Daily Mail ended up with a front page feature stating, as the pulse of power surged from the battered Bible into the hand of Donald Trump, I saw the moment the world's wokerati had worked so hard to prevent. There's three things there worthy of mention. Number one, he didn't touch the Bible. So Johnson wrote that before it actually happened. Number two, to the best of my knowledge, the Daily Mail has subsequently done nothing to correct the record, because that would involve admitting an epic failure. And number three, wokerati. Again, what do you get out of this? Well, if we were to take Michael's analysis of what drives Trump, that hat-trick of horrors, misogyny, climate change denial and racism, you'd have to work out why Boris Johnson had such a problem with people who are opposed to misogyny, who are opposed to racism, and who are opposed to climate change denial. Again, as I said, it's a buffet. He doesn't have to have taken a big scoop from each bowl, but he's taken a scoop from one or two of them. Michael Gove, Donald Trump is warm and charismatic, and he has a soft spot for Britain. Justin Webb, at the BBC, beyond the bluster, Trump may be making America normal again. And just imagine what would have happened in the right-wing press if somebody working for the BBC had written something critical of, oh, hang on, you don't have to. He wouldn't be allowed to present Newsnight anymore. There you go. It's fairly straightforward. You can work out how that works. More incoming. I think you're probably bored now. Nigel Farage says it will take Britain 48 hours to do post-Brexit trade deal with Donald Trump. I think he also said he'd be unveiling a Labour defector yesterday. Perhaps he's too busy explaining how he managed to trouser £380,000 without filling in the requisite paperwork as a Member of Parliament. And another one from the archives, ladies and gentlemen, another one of your all-time favourites, another one of those guys that you can't help but love. I give you Jacob Rees-Mogg. That was me doing my own applause because Keith's fallen asleep. President Trump will be our greatest ally after Brexit. These people are still, I mean, I don't know what, he's not an MP anymore, is he? But presumably he still gets paid if he writes an article for a newspaper. Simon Jenkins, reliable. Donald, if nothing else, Donald Trump is moving fast and breaking things. This was in The Guardian. But that may result in a better US. And then if we were to go back to the first term, and I'll probably stop now, Fraser Nelson, former editor of The Spectator when it was publishing all sorts of things, including paeans to the Waffen-SS. Fraser Nelson writing, a new, more reasonable Donald Trump presidency might just be on the way. What a time to be alive. Trump controls, Tim Stanley's back. Trump controls the world and Britain ought to let him have it. And Daniel Hannan. Yeah, your friend and mine. Trump's flaws are many, but he'd be better for Britain than Biden. If Biden wins, the free world might find itself longing for a stronger Anglo-American alliance. I mean, how wrong can you be? How wrong can you be? Answer, you can be Daniel Hannan wrong.